Bon après-midi à tous. Salut, merci d'être là avec nous. On va présenter, partager avec vous une expérience d'innovation qu'on a fait pendant 8 mois. On va vous expliquer pourquoi, qu'est-ce qu'on a fait, et les insights qui sont applicables à n'importe quelle autre exposition ou organisation culturelle. I'm going to continue in English because I think that's easier for me. But if you have questions, or you can ask at any time at the end during our talk. This is a kind of a dialogue, okay? I guess you're from the cultural sector, so you'll be really within the topic that we're going to address. So my name is Laura. We're coming from Barcelona, from Elisava. It's a design and engineering school, but we do, like a spin-off, we try and work in the cultural sector. So what we're going to present today is called Vibe. Vibe is a European project. It's a project that was funded by the Creative Innovation Lab. I don't know how familiar you are with these programs, but they invested in this project. We presented the project among 130 more proposals, and this one was one of the ones that won the financing. The objective of the call of the Creative Innovation Lab was, how can we bridge culture with digital technologies and audiovisual? So basically, what's the future of museums, and what's the future of cultural experience and cultural consumption? In specific, we started working mainly on the idea on what would be the future of cultural consumption for younger generations, so Gen Z, okay? And today we're presenting Vibe as a project and all the insights that we've gathered through the research on what's the state of the art of museums and what's going to happen, and also the pilot experience of that research process, which Saul, curator, he's going to also to explain to you, okay? So Vibe, like I said, is the main objective is to design the next generation museum content and experiences involving digital technologies and a pilot experience, okay? We were not alone in this project. It's not only about Saul, it's not only about Laura, it's about Juan Leon from Nemorin UK. He's present here if you have any questions. Nemorin is expert in audiovisual production with interactive content, etc., etc. If you have any specific questions to him. It's Marina Teuters from bywire.net in the Netherlands. They're experts in fashion technology, which we introduced also in the project. It's Rosa, Imma, and Sandra from Magma Cultura, France. And it's, like I said, Saul from Elisava Research, and also the agency Maybe, which is the new cultural agency working towards the innovation in museums and curational processes. And myself, I address, and I'm head of the research department at Elisava. So, cross-sectoral innovation, okay? We know that cross-sectoral innovation has some drawbacks, it's difficult, but certainly is the way to go forward. Mixing knowledges, mixing sectors, like I said, all these different sectors all together. And we succeeded. You will see the numbers of how many people came to the exhibition, what's the interest of these type of innovations that we have introduced. So, first, we needed to understand what was the context right now about museums. Can you just, can I just ask you, in which area do you work, like generally speaking? Yeah, but what?
I create a dynamic motion platform.
Well, that's fine. No, just to understand who I'm talking to, so I can address more things. Cultural sector too? Kind of? Okay, so you're all innovators for now, right?
Digital innovation for the museums.
Okay. And more or less, I mean, just brief description.
AI for museums, chatbots, and experiences.
Uh-huh. Oh. here we have an interesting conversation afterwards. And here, I promise it won't be that boring. Okay. If you want to add anything else there? What? Sorry? Ah, there's archive. Okay. Well, quite a melange of people, which is good. I think you have an innovative attitude. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Anyway, we know that museums, cultural experiences, without mentioning metaverses and all these things, we knew pre-pandemic that museums had to change, had to be updated to 21st century. COVID just accelerated that need, didn't bring anything new, it just was something that was needed to be done. Like museums during COVID, that's from Nemo, news that el Museo del Futuro se despide de las exposiciones de masa. So what was in it for us in terms of vibe, how we could incorporate innovations in here. So we did kind of a scouting of what kind of insights, what were the museums going towards. We knew that there's a new concept of membership. Membership is not only having a VIP pass for a terrace in Victoria and Albert Museum, but it means something else. We need to reassess that. Re-engagement is like how we engage people. It's not about having just an Instagram, but how we engage the audiences to the content. We need to rethink on that. Obviously, it's called the soft power politics, the museums being like active in talking, narrating, or giving some storytelling to current topics, from environment to political expressions like the the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, anyway, you know that certain topics need to be addressed, and museums are like civic places where these things, these concepts, these messages need to be addressed. Phygital, we know that. We know that there's a physical layer and a digital layer to anything. Like, it's not only product, it's service, physical, digital, etc. New narratives. So collections explained means just understanding that we need to generate new narratives and data. But not data of how many people have gone to the exhibition, but how we can address and do audience segmentation, understanding how data is used. Okay, so in order to personalize our paths, our ways of addressing the content. Into the Wild, this museum I think it's in, where was that? I can't recall now. The Dune Art Museum, like this rewildering trend, about embracing nature and understanding that there's this new kind of tourism, cultural tourism, and access for all, inclusivity in all aspects. Okay, so these are just a few lines, really the summary of what we scouted in different documents, like there's research, but obviously we also needed to understand the agents in this area, in this ecosystem, were saying. So we did a series of co-creation sessions with experts, obviously including partners, and a survey. So we did, with all these people, like a set of really cross-sectoral representatives, and we came with some results. Just some of them were like kind of more surprising than the others. Sorry, I'm tired. Cultural organizations will become new digital tourism leaders. There was another question like Amazon, Airbnb, Netflix, and Epic Games will be the new cultural dealers. That museum directors were like, what? Yeah, but we need to reassess things from really the very beginning and understanding that there's a new way of doing things. Not just adding technology per se, but understanding that we need to rethink the business model because it's digital too. Anyway, we asked them, all these cultural organizations, what were the main drawbacks for this digital transformation, for this innovation, and mainly staff resources. So resources, and also not just adding more workers or more money into it, but also having more intergenerational stuff. So it's not only about, it's introducing also new ways of thinking, new attitudes, new skills, or upskilling people. So that was the main one, and lack of time. So lack of time we all have normally. So to innovate, they have to invest time or invest in having an extra support in order to guide them. Some of the qualitative conversations that we had, one change that they could do, these cultural institutions, like I was saying, creating roles for young people in committees and councils. Invite them over, don't leave them out, invite them in to participate in defining and deciding. New job positions with new digital skills, obviously. And co-participation, so this idea of co-participation, intergenerational, upskilling, and new ideas on how to generate new audiences and new mediation activities. Then Gen Z. So we asked them other questions like, how many exhibitions do you go per year? How much do you enjoy going to museums? Like 4 over 5, so it means that they enjoy it. Maybe that attractiveness of the museums is what needs to be maybe upgraded. Obviously, 100% of them think that technology can be a key factor in new ways of them consuming cultural content. And 44% of them do not participate in cultural mediation activities, some kind of a passive role. So we don't want museums to be a passive agent in society. We need museums and cultural organizations to be an active agent in society, generating these dialogues with younger generations. A striking finding is like above the physical content, the space itself, or even the audiovisual content, the narrative is what is important to them. We are in a period where storytelling and story proving, not just storytelling, but story proving is important. And not only for brands, but also for museums as brands, as generators of content. So narratives, they think and they believe that internet is one of the most relevant platforms to consume culture. So internet is a museum in some sort. Do you consider internet to be the biggest museum in the world? 90% of them consider that. So we need to rethink really what the museum means. And instead, in terms of, from your point of view, what is the role of museums? They talk a lot about responsibility, what we were saying before, like political powerhouses. They need to really address current topics, besides enriching imagination, inspirations, entertainment, explore, experiment, learn, and inspire. This critical thinking perspective, they need museums to take over this role too. With Saul and all the team, we kept on searching, besides talking to the experts on the ecosystem, and we said, okay, let's research what are the drivers for change, okay? What are sociocultural drivers or industrial drivers for change? We saw the mixed realities idea, participatory entertainment, and gaming, like the big drivers. I won't extend into that. In any case, when it's over, we will pass through the QR code for the report that you can download for free, so that you can learn more about this, okay? Anyway, these are like big drivers. This is where we should be looking at, especially when we think about Gen Z audiences. Relevant narratives, like we were saying, and we were seeing before, Gen Z saying, okay, talk about something that interests me, no matter what type of support, format, object, heritage you use, but we need relevant narratives. So it's about understanding, and Saul did a great job on the first scouting of what's going on, what are Gen Z interested in. We had this whole list. Then Juan Nemorin and all his team, they research on what are they scouted what kind of hybrid audiovisual and digital platforms are out there that could be applied to the project, from the Field Trip to Mars project, which is a school bus, right, Juan? It's a school bus that is fully AR? No? Yes, AR? AR. Like going to Mars. The idea of sound is also as being a really immersive type of factor, or Zombies Run, something that is geolocalized and has this kind of gaming attitude. Anyway, we had a lot of, this is really, really summarized. Wearable tech, why wearable tech, you would say? When there's a digital, maybe, or it's good probably to enhance the physical. So how we can enhance the physical sensoriality of things? Wearables can be that solution. Okay, so it's things that can vibrate, that can even, not in this case, but release a smell, etc., etc. How we can put like a first-person perspective into content that is linked to a digital input. Okay, that's kind of difficult to explain, but probably in the exhibition you will see how we did that. With Magma France, we did also scouting. This is a summary of what are the kind of innovative solutions that are out there, or I wouldn't say solutions, but trials, or like trying to trial and, ¿cómo se digo eso? Trial and fail? Well, some kind of initiatives that are doing museums that are in the line of mixed realities, participatory entertainment and gaming. From a museum, there is a hard drive on the street. That's the Hard Disk Museum, it's called. To recreations in Instagram of traditional paintings, etc., or gaming in like Animal Crossing and Getty Museum. Okay, like I said, digital business models are important too. We cannot understand that it's only me going to the museum and buying a ticket, maybe getting some merchandising, and I'm gone. And digital first business models, such as Amazon, Netflix, all these companies, how we can apply them to the cultural sector. So we did all this really brainy thing, but obviously we're not brainy only, and we had to try this, we had to test it, we had to make something, and that's where Saul, Tai, Juan, and all the team, they prepared Activism Act as this pilot test of an exhibition that is showing everything that we've seen into one place, in a real thing. Content, exhibition, innovations, etc. Okay? So Saul will present you what the exhibition itself is. We had 5 kind of pillar innovations. I won't go through them because I think it's better explained when you see the video and when you really understand the exhibition. Okay? And that's it, the floor is yours, Saul.
Thank you.
I think we have a video, right?
Yeah, I think it's better if we can see the video of the exhibition and then I'm going to explain it, but then you have like a full image in your head.
And this is Activism Act. Que soy como la versión de WhatsApp cibernáutica de robótica de mi versión física y biológica. Generation Z, Generation you, Generation me, Generation us, Generation we are so much more than just a generational label. Muchas gracias por venir a Activism Act.
Okay. That was it. That was a video, like kind of a resume of the exhibition that we did. And that also was like developed with maybe the things that we're gonna see now and that we're gonna talk about, as Laura said, that exhibition was like really an experiential thing for us. So the idea is like all those different reports, researching, like data analysis that we did, it was like, okay, now we have to really push those boundaries, no, and just make it happen. And that's more or less like the direction and all the knowledge that we also understand behind like maybe, which is like all those new dynamics and methodologies that now we're going to explore or see how they work. That's kind of a small index of what we're going to see, but I'm going to go through it. So mainly as Laura said, there were like a lot of different things that all the generations through the workshops that we did with them, this data analysis, we learned like why they are really not visiting the museums. No, that's something super clear if we see like data analysis from museums and cultural institutions. There's that big gap between 17 and 23 years old, no, Gen Z, that they're not visiting the spaces. As a kind of a resume, we've just tried to explore all those different connections through content, through narratives, through technology, through new media. And we end up also like deciding kind of a topic that was like really pushing for them, which is like the idea of activism. But at some point, the full exhibition, we like to talk about it as if it's not like really a full resume of which are the contemporary positionings towards activism, because for sure that's going to be impossible to just bring all of them in an exhibition. So that's going to be a fail since the beginning, trying like to really resume all of them. But for us, it was a lot more important to just translate those voices and see how the Gen Z individuals and collectives are really exploring and exploiting new technologies as platforms and expressing the topics and their interests in new ways. So that was like the full thing. So that's kind of the manifesto that we developed and under all the approaches that they gave us, and like together we explore more or less the options that we had in order to like really try to understand what this activism act was. And then we ended up with narrative. No, like narrative, as Laura pointed, it was like the big thing for them in terms of understanding how they consume that kind of content and how they expose themselves to it. So we ended up kind of joking or playing a bit with the idea of like the guided tour and how that can be translated. Because something that it happened in the beginning, and you will see it, is like we've been like for a lot of years like curating exhibitions, and what we did here, it's completely opposite from what we are used to do, which is like there's a topic, no, there's a space, there's a narrative that we're creating, and then we're exploring it. Here we just contacted and we explored like a lot of those different activists and just asked them how they want to say something, how they want to translate that. And my work was to take all of those different perspectives, those different platforms, those different technologies, and make them work together, like for a single reason, no? So then we ended up with kind of a funny but super obvious topic that it really worked, which is like, okay, all the exhibition is gonna be visited through WhatsApp. So then we've worked with Samantha Hudson, that now I'm gonna introduce, which is like a queer activist from Spain, and she was the one in charge of really leading the full visiting of the exhibition. That was done either if you were physically in Barcelona or if you were anywhere in the world. Like the full access of the exhibition, it was done through WhatsApp. Obviously, there was a different experience if you were talking to Samantha and telling her through WhatsApp that, hey, I'm at Ideal Space in Barcelona, I'm visiting physically the space, or I'm in my bed in Berlin, or in the bathroom in Paris, or in the train in Lisbon. So that was more or less the the different connotations. And for us, it was like really interesting to understand that online participatory process, because like, for example, WhatsApp through Samantha, it gave us the opportunity to really explore narratives through a super close person, kind of a friend that is just like talking to you, sharing topics and sharing links as you do with your friends, no? Like with a not top to bottom narrative, but just like a super transversal one. And at the same time, it was easy like to just share links, content that was curated for the exhibition. So as said, there were like physical and digital narratives. And we're going to see like both of them. Now, at first, we're going to go for the physical ones and then the digital ones. Something important for that exhibition is like the 50% of the content was commissioned to be digitally deployed through WhatsApp. And the other 50%, it was like physically deployed at the exhibition. That was super important. That gave us the opportunity to really explore and expose a lot of the different perspectives that they create. And something interesting too is like, just to put an example, as you can see in one of the rooms, we had an immersive installation by Extinction Rebellion that maybe you know them, no? Which is like kind of that young, really Gen Z focus, new Greenpeace, no? With all those perspectives. They keep doing street demonstrations. They keep having the idea of like going to the street, shouting, giving signs, like creating all those kind of dynamics. And we had them at the same time that we had the opportunity to have that salon that, for example, they do TikTok inclusive tutorials, about like beauty. So all those different perspectives, instead of just saying, okay, we have that space and you have to change your narratives so they fit into the space, it was like we were like super open to really understand which narrative were regarding like the different perspectives that we had. So that's more or less like the different topics that we have. We have Tashinga, which is like a poet from UK. Here we had the Goblin Mode Healing Station by Neurodungeon. Neurodungeon is like collective that they build parties and raves in the metaverse, so they connect with thousands of people like online, having physical and digital events at the same time, like through music, with a really political background there. And for example, we created kind of a full after or disco inside the museum that it was like fully working from 10 in the morning till the museum was closed. So like really understanding new positionings from that idea of clubbing as a way of activism that's been present since the 60s too. But which are like the new ways of exploring it. Also, we occupied bathrooms. We had, for example, No Signal Radio, which is like a black radio from UK, and they curated playlists and podcasts for us that were like displayed in those bathrooms too. Then we had Extinction Rebellion, Understanding Humanity and Affirmations, that were like collectives or individuals that together with Nemorin, they developed the full narrative for the immersive space that you've seen in the video, that big room with the 4 walls, and we were able to translate a lot of concepts, which is like, for example, affirmation, which is an individual, like a 22 years old guy from Oslo, that he alone in his own bedroom doing memes, like images about like mental health and like really exploring this different perspective from like a really naive but deep way. He has like millions of followers, like from their bedroom. So those are like the kind of perspectives that we were interested to explore. So that's what we did. Obviously, that's something that maybe I didn't mention, or I can mention again just in case we've missed, because that's super important, is like all the content from the exhibition, it was done by Gen Z profiles, meaning that the 100% of the content, it was developed from people from 17 to 22 years old. That for us was mandatory. It had no sense to just do all that research saying those are their needs. That's how we try to understand the new museum involving Gen Z, and then doing our own or working like with people not in those ages. So that was an interesting process too, not just in terms of formats and narrative, but the way that they work, that they organize themselves. I think we all learn a lot from that process in terms of also like managing them. And that was the thing. Then we have like Emergent Magazine in terms of art and new perspective, or embodied manifesto that was curated by Mabel Olea, and that was in a space inside the museum that for the full day there were like different performances happening live. So that was another thing. So like really have physical things happening in a physical museum like all the time, at the same time that you can like connect or access to that kind of content that we're exploring. Or we have Azima, like building kind of a cinema in the entrance. Obviously, these are names that if you're interested, you can like further explore. So that was like the 50% of the content, and then we had like the other 50% of the digital content that was deployed through those different platforms or social networks. such as YouTube, Spotify, like podcasts and playlists, sharing images on WhatsApp like Vimeo or TikTok. So that was the important thing for us, that is like all of them, they already created their own narrative exploiting those kind of social networks and the way that they approach the content there, and they have their own community. So it had no sense for us to really create our own channels. And something interesting here for that exhibition is that we don't own any of that content. That's content that we commissioned to them. They create it on their own social networks, and we just share it through WhatsApp and the experience that we're creating. That's also opening interesting things regarding the way that they earn the money, because all the views from like those videos, from those perspectives, is like directly connected of how they earn that money from their own channels, which is also opening new ways of understanding how we can found or curate this kind of contents too. So that's like a full resume of, I'm gonna go fast, but it's like Extinction Rebellion. We had Azima, a print magazine platform community for women and non-binary people from the West Asian, North African, and South Asian regions, and they presented an amazing documentary that they developed specifically for the exhibition. Then we have Mabel curating that really active space. No? Here you can see like the full schedule for the week that the exhibition was happening in Barcelona, and all the different performances that we had there. Emergent Magazine, that they also curated a physical exhibition at the same time that they curated digital artists. So you were able like to really see how all those futures, no, from digital art or physical art, it's not one of the other, but which are like the narratives that are really connecting them and making the full experience doable. Then we have Tashinga, which is a spoken word artist and youth activist and Pan-Africanist, that it was super interesting too, because like she really was with words, and we were able to translate that into a full corridor, no? Like also using in the museum space some places that are like more kind of bureaucratic, no? As corridors, bedrooms, and so on. That was also important for us, because there's new ways of like really exploring those spaces and understanding that the time that I'm in a museum, no, it's not just like about the rooms that have been curated, but the experience that I have in the full building as cultural centers that can be open, no, and more inclusive with a lot of different content. We have No Signal, that I already talked about them, that radio platform. Affirmations, that meme Instagram, that actually is amazing if you're going to spend some time there. I think even if it's focused on Gen Z, I think we all are going to recognize some thoughts or directions there. Understanding Humanity, that was a documentary that some students did regarding ethics in technology, and which is like their personal view on the future of AI and how they think that's going to translate also their own world, the world that they are like building or living in. Neurodungeon, which is the artistic and musical collective doing Paris and Rave, and also Kailandre. The interesting thing, which is like a cyber musician and an artist, like in Barcelona we have like the big Cyber Foundation, which is a lot of young people, no, that they are understanding that they can create their own new senses, and explore new ways of consuming and creating culture, arts, and narrative in new ways that we've never seen before, due to the organs that they are developing for them. And also, for example, something that it happened in the exhibition, it was like it's been activated during the week. So we had, for example, performances from Kyle Andre. We had another concert by Neurodungeon that you've seen in the video, no? That concert, it was happening physically in Barcelona at the same time that it was happening in the metaverse. So we had physically people dancing in Barcelona in the space at the same time that we had hundreds of people dancing digitally in their own rooms inside the metaverse. So we were interested also in understanding those different narratives. We had that Salon and Joy Levinson. So at some point, like that was just a selection of different profiles, like worldwide based and with a lot of connections with Europe, as it was like a European project, but that at some point were like creating new narratives that we thought they were interesting to try to mix and understand how we can like really create joint ventures between all those different perspectives. The space was designed by TAC, which is an architectural studio also like from Barcelona, no? And it was super important for us that the space, it had like a big power in terms of like the physicality and the narrative of the materials, colors, and designs that we were creating. Also in terms of how we design a space that it's physical, but the 50% of the content that I consume in that same space is digital. So all those different things were taken into consideration while designing the space, which is not only a space designed in order to hold artistic pieces, but to really experience things and like be there in bed, in sofa, like just resting, consuming the digital content too. And that's just like some of the photos from the space and the different rooms that we created at Ideal Space. As you can see, like with like the Embody Manifesto one, that was like the full room / after party where like with silent headphones they were able like to dance in that space for the full day. Also, we created a lot of like just meeting points at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the exhibition. So like people can really gather there, and it's not just about like visiting something and going home, but just staying, discussing about what I did. How we also like created those installations in the bathrooms, with all the playlists by No Signal Radio. That's the immersive room, that was having like all those different live documentaries. How we also used all the corridors from the museum to create audio experiences. That one by Tashinga, or like the cinema that we created, so people were able to saw the documentary from Azima Mak. And those are also like obviously images of that space being occupied and used during the week that the exhibition was held in Barcelona. The exhibition was held in Barcelona for a full week, and starting that same day of the physical opening, it was the digital one available, and the digital one, it remained for a full month, that people from all over the world, wherever they were, had access to that conversation with Samantha, sharing all the live content that was happening also in Barcelona. Here we have like some other photos from the exhibition. As Laura said, then if you're interested in it, you can like download through the QR the full thing, so you have like links and videos to each of the day, the activities, so you can really understand like everything that happened there. Such as like the different events that we have, how like the press tour went, all the concerts that were held there were at the same time live streamed on YouTube, and you were able like to really explore it like 360 degrees from your own home if you were not there. So like it was like really same thing with Neurodungeon. All the people that you see on those screens is like avatars, that they were all over the world like dancing and chatting live in that same physical space at the same time that it was happening like digitally, which was interesting to have those kind of realities mixed. And these are like some of the numbers for the week that, once again, maybe if you have like some more time or interest, you can like go through them. But it was great, and basically we had the opportunity to like really be there with a lot of like young people that they were like really coming to the exhibition Saturday, Sunday, and so on. It was like great to see like the energy and the value of like really creating those kind of experiences, because it ended up just telling us what we already know, but we needed to explore, which is like there's a real interest from those generations like to really explore culture in new ways. And sometimes it's us from cultural institutions or museums that we are not creating the proper narratives, and that's something that we really need to change or address. Because obviously like those are the consumers of the future. That morning I was talking with a woman, and she told me like, well, I work in a museum, but my target is not like Gen Z, because they're not interested in the things that we do. But then I just told her, but like in 10 years, then you're not gonna have any target, like there's an effort that needs to be done, and something that we know, it's not about interest. It's not about interest, it's not about they don't care about art or historical perspective. It's just like, we need to change some narrative to really get closer to them. And for us, that exhibition, Active was like an amazing way of like really exploring all those dimensions in a really pushing perspectives. So yeah, well, those are like more information and just like resumes of everything that happened there. But for us, once again, it's like just like a collective effort that we did with all the different partners, exploring all those different technologies and narratives that end up creating that experience that we're like learning a lot through it, and that's mainly what we are now applying in terms of methodology. So we're starting to itinerate that exhibition. from September, like seeing in which new places we can like really recreate the experience that we had in Barcelona, obviously changing a big percentage. Each time that we iterate the exhibition, the idea there's like even a 30 or 40% of that exhibition that is working with local activists from the different countries and cities to really explore the perspective of the public there. And also at the same time is learning through all the methodology and results that we had developing that exhibition, that it what we as partners now we're like really applying in our own direction too, and the collective efforts that we create. So that's also like an email that you can use if at some point you want to get in contact with us. But I think if we have some time, we can have some questions either discuss. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Thanks. So I guess you might have questions or not. In any case, as promised, here you have, if you can just pass them around, and you have the QR that leads you to the website where you have Vibe Experience, and you have what we have presented here in two reports. One is Vibe Report and the other is AAA Exhibition. Also, you have in the tab Vibe Experience, you have our Instagram, whereas we're going to, thanks.
Hi, thank you very much for your explanation. It was very clear and very dense, a lot of information. I'm particularly interested in the narration and how to engage the public, especially the young ones. So with all of your experiences, what would be the best case study that you could explain to us and give us as an illustration, and why this example that you will explain is the best maybe guideline for any person who will be interested to develop this type of experience, with all the points that you were mentioning, entertainment and all of this aspect from the digital until the physical, and the whole journey and how you build it and you design it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of like perspective, but if I just have to share like one key thing, that will be involve young people in your organizations, involve Gen Z profiles on your communication departments, curator departments, museums and cultural institutions, because at some point we can really study new platforms, new technologies, how they share information, but then it's us trying to translate something that is not natural to us and just bring it, into the table and try to apply it. But we did that, we just work, and that for us it was like super important that the 100% of the content was developed by them, because that's the big insight that we got. We did some research, we gathered like some data, but then it was like the full process of working with them that really like pointed us to the right direction. So if we really want to involve, or if we really want to just target Gen Z generations and bring them in the cultural museums, we need to give a space to them and just bring them inside the...
So you invited them to co-construct the experience with them.
Yeah, that's the thing, because, for example, as I said, like the most interesting thing for us also in terms of as curators, it was that usually we create narratives and then we invite people and we like, you're going here doing that. And here it was like, we think that there's something interesting on what you do, on how you use TikTok, on how you use Instagram, on how you physically perform and engage with the public, on how you like really are creating podcasts, broadcasting all those different directions, and music is like, explain us what you do, and let's share some thoughts on how we can bring that into the table and mix it with the rest of experiences. So that was like process that we did in the other way, and that was like the big learning for us, which is like having them inside the organization. It was the main topic. Then for sure there are a lot of things that they also give some value, but something interesting that we did here, you've seen all that gaming, all those like different perspectives that we gathered, but then you're not seeing virtual reality, you're not seeing like cutting edge technologies that at some point we think that they are the solution. They are not the solution if they don't bring, or they are not connected with a narrative that is working and that is meaningful for them. So then, okay, technology is on top of something, and it's always like a way of like pushing things and creating new narrative, but it's not the solution that it works alone. And in terms of data, it's super clear, or for me, it was like a breaking moment when we saw that data saying the most important thing for them is the narrative. It was not the content that they answer, it was the narrative, and that's something that we were losing a bit in the process.
Yeah, and last question. How did you monitorize the experiences, and how are you able to say that it was a successful experience based on viewing, or what was your key performance? Yeah, metrics. KPIs. Exactly.
Well, we had traditional KPIs like people coming physically to the exhibition. We have KPIs or the metrics of how people and visitors interacted online. On WhatsApp. So just because you can metric not only the access, but also which content was more relevant. So we could cluster now, if we analyze those insights, we could cluster interests in there. But anyway, so physical visitors, data metrics, any digital platform has KPI metrics, and also in terms of press. You know that getting a lot of press, sometimes it's difficult if you don't have something innovative. So we knew that with all these press impacts, we were really saying something different, something innovative, that the press was willing to invest time and come. We had a lot of press, radio, TV, national, local. So those, I would say those three things.
Thank you.
No, thanks to you. Thanks for being here. Anything else?
No, we don't have any more time. I'm so sorry.
Okay, well, we can talk now. Otherwise, we have an amazing bed there that you can just lay with us. And